Welcome into Nebraska Shootaround. I'm Anna Bellinghausen, along with Mike Sautter, and we're going to break down the Nebraska men's and women's exhibition. Starting with the men's, though, Mike, what were your first initial thoughts of what you saw?
It's a very slow start would be probably the easiest way to say that. I mean, Nebraska started 4 of 7 from the field in the first 4 minutes, and then just 1 of 6 from 3-point range when it got to the under 16 timeout. And then in the first half, they were just 3 of 11 from 3 and dribbled off their foot twice, and one of them just directly out of bounds. So some bad turnovers against a Division II opponent, which wasn't great.
Yeah.
But then the second half totally flipped. So it made some adjustments and refocused, I think would be the thing. Crowd was light, so it's kind of, there wasn't a lot of energy and feel in the arena. But yeah, initial thoughts, not a great start. Much better second half. Need to figure out the shooting thing, especially from 3, if they want to be successful, because they struggled shooting from 3 in their close scrimmage against Utah too. So yeah, they luckily the schedule kind of lets them ease into getting to St. Mary's in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, like you mentioned, 6 of 22 from 3. That's about 27%. Where does that production need to come from this season? Like, who is going to be their go-to 3-point shooter?
Well, it should be Connor Essegian and Bryce Williams, and then Gavin Griffiths. Actually, all 4 of his makes were from 3, and they were all. He was 4 of 6 in the game from 3. So somebody gave them that production. Essegian was 0 of 4, which isn't great, and Bryce Williams was just 1 of 5. Those are their 3 main shooters. Raleigh Worcester, he will be the starting point guard, but he's also not known as a shooter and guy that scores a lot. Now he does a lot of everything else, but he's not known as a 3-point threat. So they got to figure that part out, and then they got to figure out how they can get Berke Buchtegel the ball at the top of the key to hit shots and get him open and things like that. So those are the main shooters, and that would be, I guess, in my opinion, they got to fix that or get a season going.
Would you say the points in the paint won't be an issue for Nebraska? I mean, they had 42 points in the paint. And they scored 73 total.
Yeah, it won't be an issue in the non-conference.
Fair, yeah.
So outside of St. Mary's and Creighton, it won't be an issue. They should score a lot of points in the paint. They did. And I even mentioned it in the middle of the game, and watching it sitting down, it was, man, just take the ball to the rack, because they weren't Grand Valley State wasn't stopping them from doing that at all. I would have liked to see them more just penetrate and get to the rim a lot more than what they did. Aaron Eulis was effective at that, but he only took 4 shots. So that and Raleigh had his 3 of 4 were at the rim as well. So they'll be able to score in the paint, especially with their size in the non-conference.
What did you think of Braxton Mia, the 7-footer transfer?
He's tall.
Yeah, is he? In person too?
Yeah, he's 7'2". He's a big guy. He played a little bit, for my liking, too far away from the basket. That's not his game. He's not known as that guy. He needs to just, and I hate saying this about tall people, but like, just get down there.
You don't want him doing anything fancy, no baby hooks.
Yeah, the 3 things he's really effective at and good at is blocking shots, rebounding, and catching lob dunks.
Okay.
Let's just focus on those 3.
Stick to them. Stick to what you know. I love it.
Let's not try and get too crazy and don't dribble at the top of the key and stuff like that with him. And there was some turnovers and different clunky plays when he was at the top of the key and kind of initiating out. That's just the offense, but maybe changing it a little bit to where he's not a part of that offense would be a little more beneficial.
So one of the biggest questions, who's going to actually play, Mike? Who would you say that would be in that starting rotation? And then who are those players off the bench?
Yeah, they started Raleigh Worcester at the point guard. He'll be likely the point guard. And then Aaron Eulis coming off the bench as a backup point guard. This year they'll actually have 2 of them and not kind of try and figure it out as far as the point guard's concerned, because Bryce had to do that. And Bryce Williams is capable of. We saw him do that last year, being the lead guard, if you will. But ideally, you don't want him to. Raleigh Connor Essegian, Bryce Williams, Juwan Gary, and Braxton Mia were the starters in that exhibition. I think it'll change throughout the year. I think it'll be maybe you'll see Burke Buchtenjel at the 5.
Mhm.
That's probably what I would do, just because he's a little more versatile. They like 5s that can pick and pop and shoot. I think Derek Walker and Rink Mass, the last 2 years, they've had those guys that kind of can hit that open 3, and Burke's capable of that. They didn't have Sam Hoiberg and Andrew Morgan available, so those 2 guys added into the rotation. Somebody's minutes are going to get cut somewhere, somehow. Gavin Griffiths, I like him off the bench. I think that's probably his role. A guy like Cale Jacobson has, in the 2 times we've seen them, the open scrimmage at Devaney and in this exhibition game, he's been really effective.
Yeah.
Like was 3 of 4, had 7 points in this game. Doesn't turn it over. Doesn't really. He knows both systems, offense and defense. He might be kind of maybe the odd man out, and he was the odd man out last year too. So we'll see how it goes. They need probably a little more from Juwan Gary. He had 9, but he only took 5 shots. He only had 1 total rebound. He's going to need to be closer to maybe a triple-double too, and be more of a defensive stopper for them. But the rotations are going to probably change depending on matchups and who they're playing and who the starters are and all of that. Because I thought Morgan would be the starting 5, but him being out, that puts Braxton in there.
Now we've had a first look at this team. When you think about the season outlook, where do you feel like that production needs to come from, and where do you think this team's ceiling is with the talent that you see?
Yeah, so I think they're very similar to last year is what it's going to end up being. They can't lose one of the bye games, if you will.
Yeah.
They need to beat St. Mary's or Creighton. One of those 2, they need to get a win. And then they need to go 3-0 or 2-1 in that Hawaii trip and that tournament. And that's at a minimum. At a minimum, they can have 3 non-conference losses. And 3's maybe pushing it a little bit. So I would say probably 2, just because of their strength of schedule and RPI and that stuff won't be real high until they get to the league. And then when they get to league play, 9-11, 8-12 might be pushing it a little bit as far as getting into the tournament. That might be too many losses.
Yeah.
I think you got to go probably 10-10 again. Maybe lose 1 at home and pick 1 up on the road somewhere along the way, and finish as close to 500 as you can in the league in order to then be 7, 8, 9 seed on the bubble, first 4 out conversation, basically the same conversation that they had last year. This team is longer, more athletic, deeper than last year, but I think they're probably going to end up being in the same situation as they were last year as far as, tournament seeding and whatnot.
If you put a percentage on it, what's the likelihood Nebraska makes March Madness?
Oh, I think it's probably 60-40. 60 that they do, just because I think they'll take care of business.
Yeah.
Also, that St. Mary's game is crucial. It's kind of like the Oregon State game last year, but St. Mary's is a much better opponent. It's in Sioux Falls. It's a really small gym. It's going to be a home crowd, very much so a home crowd, and it's loud in there, and it's small, and it's tight, like all of those things. So I think if they can get that win, it'll go a huge way, because St. Mary's will probably end up being rated at some point.
Yep.
They're receiving votes right now. And then Creighton in Omaha.
Never know.
Never know.
Yeah, you never know about that one.
There's been 50-point blowouts in that.
Yeah.
There's been other. I mean, it can be tight. You just never know.
Right.
And frankly, it looks like this team was kind of. They have Braxton Mia, who's 7'2",
They have a matchup there.
Yeah, maybe to try and defend
Kalkbrenner.
Kalkbrenner. They have a couple of more bigs that they can maybe throw at him, but it's going to be tough.
All right, let's turn our attention to the women's basketball side. Huskers won 89-52 over Doane. A little bit more of a dominant performance by the women. What stood out to you?
Yeah, Britt Prince starting. She's electric. I don't know how many games I saw her in high school. A lot. There was some question about if she would even start, and I was like, no, she's gonna start. And she was up and down, I would say, in that first game. So probably needs to get her shooting a little bit better. She had a couple turnovers that were uncharacteristic, but team overall is going to be good. I mean, the start in the top 25 is probably where they should be. They had a little bit of a slow start on Sunday, and Doan just plays super fast. So getting used to that kind of pace is a bit of maybe an issue at first, and then they just rolled. As long as you have Alexis Markowski, who
is walking
gonna,
double.
yeah, she's gonna be first team All Big Ten if she stays healthy. Don't see why she wouldn't be. And they have a little more pieces around her to kind of help. So Potts is really good, and the team should be pretty good.
Yeah, and Allison Widener as well, returning after 2 brutal season-ending injuries back to back. I mean, it almost was emotional watching her get back on the court. I think it was just such a testament to everything she's been through, and to stick with that.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
Just as a human, and she is a winner in every sense of the word. I've seen her win high school track state championships. I saw her win her volleyball state championships in high school. I saw her win her basketball state championship in high school. She wins. She's a really good athlete. Obviously, this slows her down a little bit, but the multiple injuries. But having her back is just such a positive. It's uplifting almost.
Yeah.
One, it also gives you a little more depth at the guard spot, which certainly helps. And she started the game, which is probably about right. Like, I think she just brings that energy. She'll be able to give you everything she's got for maybe not 40 minutes, but 25 would be great.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking down the roster, and especially just the stat sheet, there's so much experience on that team. Do you feel like it's one of the deeper teams that they've had in years past?
Yeah, I think so. And even in the league right now, you had, I mean, Iowa's going to look totally different.
Right.
And be totally different. So can they make another run? I mean, last year they lost to Iowa in the Big Ten championship game. Can they kind of make that run again? Yeah, I think they absolutely can. Now you add USC, who's pretty good and the best player
UCLA
in the country.
as well.
UCLA is really good, and one of the best.
And they're all good.
Yeah, all 4 of them are really good. So it's going to be really hard to repeat that success. But at the same time, they have a ton of winnable games on their schedule. Again, you look to going to Sioux Falls, playing South Dakota, which is, that crowd is going to be probably 50-50. I mean, Sioux Falls is about, I don't know, 20 minutes from South Dakota home gym. So going to be hard, but they're, again, starting over with a new coach. But that roster that they've put together at South Dakota should be pretty formidable.
Yeah. Feels like year after year, Amy Williams just finds a way to do what she can with the current roster that she has, and using them to their biggest strengths. And I think a testament to that is Alexis Markowski, like how much she's grown from her freshman year. I don't know if she would necessarily expect the success. I mean, she's on the Naismith player to watch for Player of the Year award.
Yeah, I mean, her body transformation from high school has been something too.
Yeah,
like she's in great shape, looks great. She can get up and down the court. She can step out and hit threes. That was something in high school too that she was able to do, or showed that she was capable of. And now she's taken that with her to college and gotten better at it. And her presence in the post and her tenacity, she plays really, really hard. Her and Allison both, I mean, they play really hard. Potts plays really hard too for them. So Amy's ability to use the different pieces that she has and kind of adapt to them or adjust to them based on injury and who's in and out and all of those things has been pretty remarkable in her time. That's what she's very good at, is finding matchups and creating them.
So season outlook, when you look at their schedule, where are the biggest challenges in non-con, and where are those resume builders at? Where do they have to win?
Yeah, I think that South Dakota game's key.
Yeah.
Pretty key. I do think going ahead and looking way ahead, I think they're a tournament team. Obviously, they're top 25 team to start the year. It's just a matter of, hey, can they get a couple, like a home? Can they host, right? How high can they get? Can they host NCAA tournament games, which should be the goal for sure. And I think that's pretty capable. They're very capable of being able to do that this year.
Would you have liked to see them schedule some tougher opponents in that non-con?
Yeah, I mean, you look at their schedule. I'm gonna pull it up. I'm just trying to go from memory, but that's just not gonna work. Yeah, I mean, you start with Omaha. Creighton is a tough one. Creighton's just had their number without a doubt.
Mhm.
Like Creighton's had their number. Kansas City's going to be just okay. I mean, Tarleton State, there's games there where you're like, okay, like could we have probably done better? But the league is tough.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you add in the 4 West Coast teams that we talked about,
they didn't maybe need it in the non-con
they didn't
for their
need
resume.
They didn't need it. And playing Omaha to start the season is fine, right?
Yeah.
I guess that'd be what I'd say. It's fine. It's not crazy, but there isn't a lot of, outside of that Creighton game, there isn't a lot of challenging games. So if you can maybe somehow beat them finally, then you're cooking, right? You might be undefeated.
It does put a lot of pressure though on those non-conference games. Like those are must wins.
Yeah,
truly.
They have to win that game, right? And then they have to beat Georgia Tech. Like they should beat Chattanooga and Tarleton and Lindenwood and Kansas City and South Dakota and North Alabama and Southern. I mean, they should win all those games.
Right.
It's just, so then you look at that Creighton game, we're like, okay, that one's big.
Yeah.
That one's really big because their non-con isn't.
And that really could be the difference between them hosting or not.
Correct.
At the end of the day.
Because Creighton would like to host too.
They're right in the conversation too. Yeah, they want the same deal. So for players on this roster, if you got to pick one to say who might surprise some people this season, who would you say that would be on the women's side?
Well, I would normally go with like a freshman, but I think we feel pretty good.
I think we're confident for it. Yeah.
I think we feel really good about her. Kendall Moriarty is the one that I think probably can take another step again. She was, now her playing time is going to get cut a little bit because Britt is in the conversation. But that one, and Logan Nisley, I think she's sophomore, like it's time to, got a year under your belt. I think she can probably take another step
forward.
Probably
in that same conversation.
Potts is in that conversation. Those are the people that can be in that conversation. But Petra Bozon, how much can she play? 6'3". She played some in the exhibition. Can she provide some sort of post backup presence? At least, spell Alexis for 5 minutes, 10 minutes a game, something.
Let her breathe once.
Yeah, can you get her a break, right? Without giving up too much.
Yeah. Well, Mike, anything stand out to you in this upcoming slate that you want to see from Nebraska women's basketball? Is there anything that needs to improve?
Yeah, I would say one, they turn it over probably a little too much in that exhibition game. And we'll see, Monday they start the season with Omaha. They shouldn't have that problem again against them. I think cutting the turnovers is the number one kind of thing for me.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining Nebraska Shootaround. We'll talk to you next week. For Mike Sautter, I'm Anna Bellinghausen. Thanks again for joining us.